Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to a very special video. Today, I'm going to be chatting with a buddy of mine, Rob, from Sacramento-based metal band Wurm Flesh, while also working on the latest album cover of theirs. It's not often that artists like myself, for bands, get to chat with the actual band themselves while working on their art. Now, this video is time-lapsed, and some things might jump cut and seem kind of to pop in and out of nowhere, since that's kind of part of the process of being an artist and working with the client, which is making changes along the way. So we'll talk about that, obviously, when we get to it. Anyway, without further ado, here's Rob from Wurm Flesh. So, tell us a little bit about the band and how you guys got started.
Um, Wurm Flesh kind of came out of the ashes of what was the end of Siphon Soul.
Good
Um,
old Siphon Soul.
yeah, and there was the material that I was writing that I thought was more mature at the end of Siphon Soul's legacy. I didn't want to let die with Siphon Soul, and I just wrote and hashed out the material. Unfortunately, I was writing the songs by myself, so I didn't have the perspective of any other members for a minute. So the early Worm Flesh is very much just me, my ideas, songs we needed to play live. It was just easier to hash out. And then late 2013, I met up with Mitch and we started hashing out the ideas. Um, and then 2014, I think we started actually playing shows. But Wormflesh was, boy, I was trying to get that material and the idea off the ground in like 2010, 2011. So you can tell there's a couple years of trying to versus when we achieved launch and lift off.
How'd you guys come up with the name Worm Flesh? What's it mean? I mean, I know what it means, but tell our viewers what's Worm Flesh.
So the spelling of it, just like my band Siphon Soul, was based off Magic the Gathering.
Oh my God.
So
Metalheads are into satanic evil shit. No, we're nerds.
So Siphon Soul was actually a swamp card for Magic the Gathering. But in Magic the Gathering as well, I'm just gonna call it MTG for short. Most people who play will understand. But in MTG, there is a breed of creature type card called a worm, and it is spelt WURM. And I've always loved that. It's very European. I know I'm just missing the umlau over the U or something like that. But
Ultra
that's
nerd.
where the inspiration for spelling it came from. But it's kind of a metaphor for the circle of life. Whether you were a king or beggar in life, we all become one with the maggots and the belly crawlers. We all become the flesh of worms eventually. So death comes for us all, no matter where your status is in life.
That is very profound and very very metal and nerdy of you. I remember we met when I was in a band also, Zombie Death Stench, and I think Jason came up with that from a Simpsons episode, believe it or not, which is kind of crazy. And
I
we
have
had
some
some pretty
that
we
comes
had
from.
some pretty interesting experiences whenever we played shows together. I say um you want to talk about that or kind of leave that
Oh man,
in
I
the
remember
past?
I remember you guys were you sort of solidified I mean, I've already sort of known bands always had like a consistent look, but I think there was something about you guys with the military uniforms and the patched up Dickies work shirts.
Oh yeah.
Like you're part of a zombie like rescue extraction team of some sort, like a Ghostbuster, but without,
Oh
zombies.
yeah.
You guys literally had the matching mid calf combat boots.
I'm gonna have to put some pics up in the video of this because you were talking about.
You guys had the matching like mid calf combat boots. You guys had the
Mhm.
matching tactical pants. Your guys' all had sort of like a matching kind of tactical button up shirt, but but man, you guys always kind of had that. You could tell we're in the same band look, when you guys hit the stage and your songs were gory, they were grindy. Everyone other than Jason, I don't remember Jason ever really doing vocals other than backup. It or was Jason?
Mostly like on the albums.
Yeah.
I came in during the their second album, which not too happy with the mix. But the third and fourth album, yeah, it was me and another vocalist. But
You guys
yeah,
had like
we had the whole Resident Evil kind of tax squad stars military kind of look going on since we wanted to have that uniform. Anyway, this is about you. This is about you guys. We're
I will
talking
say
about
though,
zombie.
I always love that you guys also had that element of sexuality through your artwork.
Well, that's
To where
that
you
was
were
all
able
me.
to.
Jason, he didn't like no, we don't need chicks on the album cover. I'm like, yes, we do.
Then
I'm
you
an
guys,
erotic horror artist. Yes, we do.
I think you guys kind of had those like zombie girls who would like go-go dance. So it's like, very like the music was
Yeah,
like the music was grindy, it was industrially, it was definitely something chicks could strip to if
it
they want.
was it kind of had that old school White Zombie. And for those of you that don't know what White Zombie is, that's Rob Zombie's original band. Ooh, that's so anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you guys already have one full album out and an EP so far, both of which I did the art for.
Yes.
What made you decide to keep me around aside from my charming personality?
I like that we kind of were on the same page about a sort of realism about what we could do to the art. And I remember when I met you, God, years and years and years ago, and I came over to your
Yeah.
house. You're like, my parents are like doctors. I have all these anatomy books. I'm really big on anatomic
Uh-huh.
correct, things being correct. Like you're like, I'm not gonna make someone throw something in a way that, like the arm doesn't twist that way, the legs don't twist that way unless they're being ripped out or you're getting something broken.
There's a
Uh,
lot of limb ripping.
yeah. And I like consistency, and I also like that you're a storyteller. I think I've also liked that you've done Aliens versus something about the comic book stuff you were doing as well. It's
Hmm.
like, man, it's like this. It's cool, and I liked your style. I liked how the digital painting didn't look too digital, but it didn't. I don't know, man. There was just something about you understood that I wanted like a sort of a realism to the gore and the things I.
That's that is one thing is whenever I do digital artwork, which is I won't say 90% of the stuff I do now, I try not to make it look too digital. So I keep the simple basic brushes and I don't go for that kind of digitized hard edge kind of look that I see a lot of digital art kind of do. If you notice on a lot of my stuff, I actually, after I got all the color grading, color maps, and everything down, I blur my edges to kind of make it seem like old Renaissance paintings. Because I actually love old like Rembrandt stuff, or even like when it comes to like ink work, like Gustave Doré, along with all the like John Bolton, not Michael Bolton, John Bolton. He did a lot of Alien covers for Dark Horse Comics. And then when I got into like Spawn and Image Comics, like Todd McFarlane and Greg Capello, or Danny Mickey was another one. And then painters like Boris Vallejo and Heavy Metal Magazine and his wife Julie Bell. But that's me name dropping. Let's talk a little bit about the latest album. So, or you say like all your albums, because I guess they're all tied together. There's a lore behind the first album, the EP, and the newest one that's coming out. There's like this grand concept and a deeper meaning that all the art kind of ties into. You want to talk about that for a
Yeah.
minute?
Um, this might sound selfish, but I found out, like as I was growing up, my mom was kind of a partier. She's dead now, so she'll never see this. But I always had that kind of like, what if I came out, what if I was kind of like one of those children that were victims to a parent who was abusing their body with substances and things like that, and I came out relatively normal. But sometimes I think I'm
Okay.
lucky, but sometimes I think I'm lucky and I wonder what if. And the first album was just called Excoriation Evisceration. But the focal point of the album cover was actually centered around the song Propagated Self-Hatred Through Viral Media. Um, and what it was is it's this woman who is trying to emulate Hollywood's ideal of beauty, and she is sadly broke at the same time. So she's performing self surgeries. And the first album, you tell she was beautiful, and that was kind of the point. It's like this is a chick who's beautifying herself So she's got to be pretty. She can't be ugly. She's
Yeah.
trying to achieve this level, this brainwashed idea of what beauty is. Um, and so she was sitting on like a throne of flesh, which is some really cool ideas. And this was one where we talked about it's like it can't be overly gory because it's kind of a personal mental struggle. And um, in 2025, is no one wants to talk about it, but it's a form of body dysmorphia.
It is. It is for sure.
So it's a form of body dysmorphia. Um, so the album had, believe it or not, I tried. There's some names where it's just silly, brutal, but songs like "Enshrined in Rot" was based around a hoarder. Basically they are creating their own coffin in the filth in which they collect and live in from hoarding. Um, we have a song called Morale Crusher, which is about someone who gets past their military mental evaluation, they become a submariner, and they finally snap while under the sea and they go on a killing spree. So it's a little mixture of brutality, but with some real world things that could happen.
Hmm.
Um, Tombs Which God Decay on that album was about sort of the more we learn through science, the more we seem to rely less on religion and superstitions, etc. So there's always some sort of deeper meaning behind things.
For
Uh,
sure.
and then the EP is a picture of a fetus in
That
utero.
one, that one, by the way, was really fun to paint. I'll just on a little sidetrack. Um, I might throw up the first album cover on here, but I'm gonna have to really heavily censor some parts.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I that was also at a time when I was kind of new to doing album covers for bands. So I looked at reference poses, I looked at references. I went off of what you guys wanted, but I was like gory, not gory. Also, at the same time, still figuring out my style in digital art. So I mean, I'll be honest, it's not my best work, but it's one of those ones where I got to do something as practice to see like we're also learning album dimensions too, because I
yeah.
realized, oh,
They're specific.
it's not just a square. Like, oh, I have to go like specific album dimensions height. So I learned a lot from doing that album cover and a lot of trial and error. And I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for bands like you guys. And I'll throw Toy Called God out there too for giving me a chance to start doing album covers, and it's allowed me to do covers for more bands and bigger bands coming up. But yeah, that second the EP, that one was fun to draw. Let's talk about that for a little bit. Let's go over that one a little bit.
All right, so the EP was called Teratogenic Malformation. And
Jesus.
hold on,
No worries. I can cut this.
I'm sorry about that, everyone.
You know what?
I'm
I'll keep it. We want to see all the little all the interrupts and mistakes. Like I'll keep in the artwork too. Anyway,
so
teratogenic malformation.
yeah, so teratogenic malformation. Teratogen is any substance or chemical that enters a mother's body, and that can adversely affect development of a fetus. So that could be anything from you know, you scooping out your cat's shit and piss and the ammonia from those messing with your body,
Yep.
from just toxins from smoking to you purposely popping pills or not knowing what the hell's happening. So the fetus that is the main focal point of the EP is inside the body of the woman on the first album cover. She's doing all of this horrendous self-surgery to herself. No clue she is pregnant because she is so malnourished. The fetus is malnourished, and believe it or not, and so the lyrics at the end, oh, I kind of want people to read the lyrics, but basically, you discover that the man on the second album, not the EP, but this is the album that's coming out, impregnates his victims and uses them as experiments. So he feeds them their anesthetics, he feeds them their surgical tools, he feeds them everything they need to go through with whatever they need to do to fulfill this body dysmorphia idea that they have to come, whatever it is they
Hmm.
have. And then if they die, he guts the babies from their cold cadavers if they're still alive. It's kind of a survival of the fittest through purposeful intoxication and ruination of these women.
You would think that most metalheads have a medical degree with all the medical stuff we talk about in our music and our songs and all the lyrics you read. Like I work in an ER, and there's times when I'll listen to like songs like, oh yeah, I actually saw that the other day for real. Like like no kidding, no joke. Um so from the first album, EP, to third album, it's like one continuous story basically where it kind of goes through like a concept.
So it's not like I'm gonna use a cheesy thing, but like Iced Earth, where they have like Framing Armageddon, where every song really just ties into it.
Yeah.
It's more so the album covers are gonna tie into each other, and there's gonna be songs within the album that actually tie the storyline line. But there's always gonna be this consistent um songs we have that are kind of gonna be set in real life emotions. Like we're gonna have one song called By Any Means Necessary, and it's basically war, would destroy your opposition. Well, but how, sir? By any means necessary.
Hmm.
There's gonna be the album. I'm just gonna say the album title. The album title is gonna be entitled "Puppeteering Fetid Remnants." Basically, um, this child that was in utero on the EP is growing up to be the protege of this, this boogeyman
This
surgeon.
this this kind of shadow figure
Yeah,
thing.
the shadowy figure. And the shadowy figure is also more of a metaphor for media.
Hmm.
Um, just, the people who really kind of run the country in terms of telling people how to think, how to purchase, what beauty is, what being rich is. We're also brainwashed in that you need the newest, you need a Mercedes, you need a
On
Gucci bag.
on a side note, to go on a little tangent, my wife said that today some lady rang our doorbell and told us we need to cut our lawn. Like I work graveyard, our lawnmower's busted. We're getting a new one, and it's like, do you live here?
Yeah.
What, like this
Pay my
is your
bills?
it's and you can see that when we have like black matting over where we're gonna put like new garden plants, rocks, like we're working on the front yard.
Yeah.
It's in you can see it's being worked on.
Yeah.
Like who the hell do you think you're? Get the fuck off my property. Get out
Yeah.
of here. So, and I see what you mean about the shadow government media telling us how to live, what to do. Neighbors tell you how to live. Like it's everywhere.
Yeah.
You don't even need. But anyway, that's just a side
No,
rant.
dude. So me and my wife we're redoing our house right now. We're ripping out all which by the way, oh my God, if you have ever considered ripping out your carpet and doing hardwood, dude, do it because we've ripped out our carpet. Yeah, we had some neighbor, like I didn't know we don't live in an HOA. We literally had some neighbor narc on us
Yeah.
like a couple days before what we have is our neighborhood pickup. About 3 or 4 times a year we have a neighborhood pickup, and you can bring out all your bulk items, old dressers, dining room tables. So we kind of timed redoing our floor with when our neighborhood pickup's going to be. So we basically got a letter saying if we don't get rid of this pile, they're going to fine us for I don't know, a visual obstruction or whatever. And we're like, now I had to go pay $70 for a dump run when the neighborhood pickup was going to be here in like 2 days,
That's crazy. Oh my God, dude. All right. Okay, let's go from that little hitch right there. So let's talk about the latest album a little bit. When you came with me to the idea, or with the idea, I sent several sketches to you, and I had a pretty good, well, idea of what you wanted. And I
Yeah.
added a little bit of a cosmic horror vibe and had to tone it back a little bit until I got your vision.
Yeah.
How important do you think it is to balance out your creative vision with that of others, like say the artist's input that you're working with, or even when writing music with the other guys? Where would you say is your sort of middle ground between your vision and who you're working with?
Oh man, I'd say it's absolutely important to give m- a majority of the creative freedom over to the artist. It doesn't mean that the artist should never give you your vision. But the fact is, you're hiring your artist for a reason. Because if you could draw this stuff yourself or make the music yourself, you would be doing it. And
Yeah.
since I'm not an artist, I can only tell you, I can only maybe show you some references. We could probably reference album covers in terms of the perspective I sort of see in my head for what's happening. But beyond that, it's as long as it meets the criteria, it has the kind of focal features that I want. It's as real or as fantastical as I want. I think that's what it's all about. Like I said, it's uh, um just like in a band, my bassist, I don't tell my bassist how to write the parts. Yes, it's important that he knows where the root notes are, the notes that we're playing as guitarists, so he can make up his mind if he wants to follow us, stick in a pocket, or maybe come up with some sort of line that is a mix between following us and staying in the however he sees fit.
Yeah.
I'm not doing his job, and good members and good artists shouldn't need to be directed too much, in my
That
opinion.
was because I was say that was one thing when I was doing your album cover. It was I understood you had like the kid in the middle was going to be from the EP but grown up, and you
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
this kind of shadow figure, and that was kind of let's go from there. It was like a work in progress, like trust the process kind of thing. And I wanted it to be in a dungeon, but I didn't want it to be typical. I didn't want like, wooden tables and rats and shackles and that kind of shit you see all over the place.
Like,
So uh,
overplayed, dude.
it's I started with basically the teenage. I call him a kid, the teenager, the figure, and then
Preteen, teen, whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, whatever someone looks at, interprets the age as, someone might say, oh, that's whatever. The kid looks old enough to be
yeah.
16. To
But
me,
like on
he looks 12-ish to me,
yeah.
personally.
With that's kind of what I was going for. But like the figure in the background, I'm the kind of artist where I go extreme and farther, and it's easier for me to tone back rather than some artists they'll start kind of more anthropomorphic human, and then they kind of have to keep adding stuff to it. So I remember I had, I mean, if it hasn't passed by now, I don't know where it's going to be in the video. This kind of multi-eyed Lovecraftian eldritch shadow creature
Yeah.
that it was humanoid, it was human-ish, but it wasn't quite. It didn't have the personification of something I want to say that crosses that uncanny valley, which I wanted. I wanted that weird uncanny valley. So then you told me like, oh, tone it down and to look a little bit more human. So I had this kind of. I used a reference of a face statue. I think it was from some cathedral in Italy. Like if you see the face in the background, but I made it my own thing. So it's kind of majestic, royal, and religious looking, which makes it kind of creepy. And then brought it down to a more human level, but I kept the whole weird body shape, kind of lanky arms and veins. And finally, we're like, yes, this is what it's. This is this thing pretending to be human.
Well, what I like is that leaves enough room for me to write, not be cheesy, but it's like I said, this person, it's not really supposed to specifically be that it's a male
Yeah,
doing it's the fact that it represents, you know, it does represent a entity that is controlling, like, again, to touch on a point earlier, not to sound like a broken record, it's an entity that sort of there's just this thing that just tells people
hmm
why, I don't want to go to they live on anybody, but
yeah,
you
yeah. Put the
there
glasses on. Just wear the fucking glasses. Just put
yeah,
them on.
but there is just something out there where there's just some people who feel like they got to do something to, that whole keeping up with the Kardashians. That's real for some people. Like,
Yeah,
what is Kim
unfortunately, yeah, it's
doing? Oh my God, you didn't buy me a Lexus,
oh,
that's
jeez.
I don't have the latest iPhone. I don't have the latest oh God, I don't know what else can be the latest handbag, the latest perfume, the latest, for dudes, the latest truck, the latest, lifted mods, the dad bod destroyer 2.0, the latest whatever.
Oh, for sure.
There's something out there that people are looking at because they feel like it's going to give them some sort of status thing.
It's validation. It's
Yeah.
it's it's social validation.
Of
But going,
We're guilty of that as musicians. Like, Like I feel proud that I own like a E2. I'm like I probably could do the same thing on like a $800 guitar mod, but something makes me feel so proud that I worked so
Hey,
hard.
I'm still playing on my Iceman. I love that thing with my Seymour Duncan Predators on there. Love
Yeah.
it.
Um, so I'm not guilty of oh man, I think I need the newest tool. This new tool came out. I need
Yeah.
it. Make my work better. I really want to go back to two, but
Ah,
so I
no.
mean we all fall into little ruts, but to one thing to make I think tools to make art is kind of different than a handbag that does nothing more than hold your credit card to
Speaking
while it's like the next handbag.
speaking of tools to make art, let me ask, time for a hot button topic, and you can avoid it if you want, but as an artist, I will say AI. So AI has hurt art more than it's helped it, in my opinion. I have felt this firsthand with some bands using AI for album covers. What do you think of bands that use AI for album art?
I say if you're a reputable, I'm a little mixed. You may not like it, but I think if you're a band just starting off and you need something and you don't have a budget for shit, I can maybe understand using it for an EP. But to be honest, when you're in a band that has a little bit of notoriety behind you, and I'm not saying Wurm Flesh is anything huge,
Yeah.
but we're at when you get to a phase where you want to start getting paid for your art as a musician, I think you're in a position to pay artists for their work. You know, I think, if we weren't on Spotify trying to get, which God is another rabbit hole we could go down,
Good old Spotify.
but I want to get paid for my merch. I want to get paid for playing. I want to get paid for the music I create. So it's not fair for me to want to get paid as an artist, but think artists who create art aren't worth paying. And
That's
And to be honest, man, no matter what stage your band is, you can find an artist that's at a similar stage with their paintings, with their work. You can literally, you don't have a large budget, you could probably find some kid out there. Hell, from Indonesia, dude, those kids don't ask for a lot of money
yeah,
and they
yeah.
will create you some art. At least you're supporting some dude and you're putting some food in his, on the table.
I've heard the I can't afford an artist thing a lot. It's also in the author community since I write, I got a couple books out. It's one of those things where, oh, I can't afford an artist, so just use AI. Well, my thing is, what did people do before AI was around? I mean, there were up and coming bands in the 80s, 90s. There was no AI. So there's always a way like take a picture of something. Look, black metal bands, go to a forest, take a picture.
Yeah.
Get some clip art. There's always resources online. So it's kind of like I wonder like how would they feel if people used AI to write music and call themselves musicians? Like I don't
It's
have to listen to metal bands anymore if I can Zoom cut us off.
Zoom is a jerk.
Zoom is a jerk. We were talking about AI.
Back in the 80s and 70s, before bands had real budgets, they still had artwork.
Yeah,
There's ways
yeah.
around, there's tons of workarounds.
And I'm sure there's more support for real art, thankfully now than there is people that kind of defend AI. But there are those bands, and I understand if you really don't have the money, they want to do that. But it's kind of a reminder, like I have personally had work scraped by AI algorithms. You can go to haveibeentrained.com and it shows me what has actually been trained by like Mid Journey or Meta and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I did see one guy,
Has it
huh?
been trained by your images to know how to replicate?
Yeah.
Whoa, no shit. That's crazy.
So the ones I had were the that werewolf one I did a long time ago for I forgot what magazine it was, but there was the RoboCop Terminator one I did, that Master Chief Halo one I did, a couple personal pieces I did. I have like at least 30 paintings, drawings on just out there, just that have been trained. So it's it's of course not just me, it's other artists. It's almost
Right?
every artist online's been trained, so now I have to use like watermarks and nightshade to kind of protect my art. So it's kind of like I see a band or an author or somebody put something out, I'm like, that looks eerily similar to something like Greg Rutkowski or Tom McFarlane or even something I might have done all mixed in, and you're profiting off us. That's where it hits me the most. Is I don't care if people I don't care if people use it just to screw around for fun, which at the same time, you really shouldn't because it is a strain on the environment. These AI data centers, oh, if only people knew how much electricity and crap they pull. But
I see, AI, it's one of those things, like I said, we bitch as musicians that our art isn't, Napster and all the free downloads and
yeah,
the people who can stream us. And I hate to say, just because you pay for, if you pay for Spotify Premium, we don't see an extra, you know, to one thousandth of a penny from that
oh
just
no,
because you went premium. You just no longer are paying for commercials. And, we're like, we want to get paid for our music and it sucks. And it's not that someone could necessarily rip it off, but the fact is they own our music for super cheap.
yeah, yeah.
And it's
It's
there's an
disheartening.
integrity thing behind it. Like you said, people are kind of starting to get bullied about it,
Hmm.
and people are losing a lot of respect for, big name bands. I mean, Dayside was accused of stealing artwork or using AI work, sadly. Who else was
Yeah,
recently?
Deicide definitely they were open about using AI for an album cover, and I'm not listening to Deicide anymore. I'm not buying their stuff. Pestilence was another one.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to
yeah.
start name dropping too many bands, but Dream Theater had it, had AI. And these are bands that I liked, as a teenager and growing up and stuff. Like now it's like, really, you guys are gonna
You would
just
think of all bands, Dream Theater could
oh my
definitely have the
God.
budget
I
for
know, right?
those guys
Dream
definitely have the
Theater,
budget for
really?
artists.
Really? Like, come on. Same with some authors have used AI. I'm not going to name any
Yeah,
names
you
because
don't
I don't
have to. Don't
people
shoot
coming after
yourself in
me.
the foot in your own community.
Yeah, yeah, it is. But I support real art, support real writers, support real musicians. Anyway, what's in store for you guys going here on out?
Oh man, so we are actually almost we're just tightening up the ass end of a handful of tunes, and we're actually ready to record the album, even though it's not out yet. But it will include the tracks that are on the EP. We will reamp them, since we just got some new tube amp goodies. Um, so we're gonna reamp the first three tracks on the EP, and we have about six more songs we're gonna add to that, plus an acoustic intro.
Oh, nice. Very Vital Remains.
So I'm not gonna lie, I started becoming a fan of the idea of acoustic instruments, either introing or outroing an album. One from Deicide Scars of the Crucifix, because the piano piece at the end,
Yeah.
at the beginning of Scars. Aeon also does these symphonic pieces that sometimes lead into the album and an outro of the album. So I was like, I want to do dark acoustic instruments at the beginning, yeah, either beginning or
I've
end of the album.
I've always been a
So
fan of like intros and outros. Like the zombie albums have that kind of weird phaser kind of thing. Like Cradle of Filth does it, Dimmu Borgir does it, White Zombie did it. All the bands I liked. So I like intro tracks. I'm just saying, I'm with you on that. I love intro tracks.
The first album, which of course we discussed, you did the artwork for, that had a piano piece called
Yeah,
Waltz
yeah,
of
yeah.
the Worms. Believe it
I
or
still
not,
have it back here.
Waltz of the Worms is actually, God, that track is, I recorded that around 2011.
Yeah.
And I sat on that piece for like 7, 8 years before went on an album. All we had, all the engineer did, which I don't want to say his name. I don't want to give him any more credit than he's gotten from us. Um, but all he did was level it because that's all he could really do, because it was already, there were no stems to it. It was just an MP4 or something that I had, or a
Always
wave.
try to have a good master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which was good. I think it was the right amount of, you know, I think it was the right amount of well done. It was produced enough but not overproduced. It didn't sound like the piano piece off of uh, you know, um oh my God, Death Call Armageddon. It didn't sound that polished.
Yeah.
But
It's okay to have a little bit of raw. Like I like that kind of raw sound still, like that's kind of what makes metal, or I want to say what separates kind of like death metal, tech death from like kind of the bigger symphonic kind of metal bands. I mean, I like both for different reasons, but I like your guys' sound because it's kind of I want to say fuzzy but crunchy, not fuzzy in a way where it sounds like it's in a tin can, but
yeah,
it's heavy. Like I can listen to it pretty much on my computer speakers monitors like while I'm like when I was working on the album cover, or I can listen to it in my car on the way to work. Which, hey, listen to some tech death on the way to the ER. Like, what do we have coming in today?
right. So aside from that, we are playing. We're playing Slam Dakota in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in
Nice.
July. That'll be our first time going any further than Arizona. So this is our debut out in the Midwest this July. We have a local show coming up in June as well. We're playing with the Inferi and Vitriol. And then we are going to be playing, speaking of Vital Remains, we're going to be playing um, we're going to be playing a festival in Hawaii in October that is hosted by Damian Boyton, who, if you ever look up Vital Remains live,
Yeah.
typically it's going to be the footage of where Damian was their vocalist. So
Oh, nice.
I met him at, well, I should say but we met him at Las Vegas Death Fest 9 or 10. He's at our merch booth, and I looked at him, I was like, "You look familiar, dude." And I'm like trying to put my finger on it, and his wife says he was vocals for Vital Remains.
Was he the original vocalist after before Glenn Benton came along?
Oh no, I think after Glenn left, Damien, I think they were hunting around for vocalists, and Damien was
Oh, yeah.
live.
I mean, I know Vital Remains. I'm just not too familiar with them as much as I am like other bands. Like,
Yeah. I think basically Glenn came in, Glenn stopped touring. They maybe had someone else. But Damien was he is the most popular footage that always pops up of Vital Remains live has Damien in it.
I've seen. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I just wasn't sure if like he was
Tall,
first or Glenn. Yeah, I just.
yeah, tall, skinny kid, really long, big hair.
Yeah.
Dave's bald and whatnot, and it's all got a bunch of blue stage lights. But yeah, I just like I said, I was eyeballing. I was like, and his wife said he was in Vital Remains. I was like, that's where he's like, no, no, no. She's just joking. I just look like him. I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, dude, I promise I wasn't in that band.
How
He's
was
like,
I was gonna
shut
ask
up,
you,
you heard me.
how was your show with the Boarded?
Oh, dude, it
Yeah, because
was.
I mean I wanted to make that, but I was working that night, and I was like, dude, I could. There was a whole that whole week. There was like a lot of stuff going on with me that I couldn't make it out, but that was one that I really, really, really regret not being able to make it to. I wanted to be there. So
It
how was
was
it?
It's our shows that we play at Goldfield and the bands we're open for are just getting sicker, dude. If you look at the photos of that show, it looks like it went as good as it did, dude. There was every photo that you see of us playing live, that room is packed. You know how man, we've all been to the shows
Yeah,
where we show up late because it's a nobody local opener, and then you see the photos from the show, and no one was there for the first band, but everyone got there around third, fourth band.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I know.
We have been fortunate enough that we've developed our skill as live performers, our songs, the quality that we're putting out, I think, in terms of tunes, the way we dial in our tones, I think we've been doing the right job, the right job, whatever. We've been doing something right that's telling people like we gotta get there early. Worm Flesh is playing. Get there
Yeah.
early. You have to
You,
watch them.
ever since you were in Siphon Soul, I was like, man, you guys, you were good. You were one of my favorite guitar player vocalists that we played with, along with some of the other bands we've had shows with. I know, like we've done a lot of shows locals with Nothing But Losers. I'm giving them a little shout out here in the video.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
you know,
Lunchbox.
oh well, yeah. If Lunchbox sees this, I'll tag him.
Yeah,
There's
you're
gonna
gonna
be
have
yeah, things, but yeah. Where can people find your stuff? Give me your socials. Give me all your
to.
links where people can find you.
So if you really want to help support us with our music, Bandcamp. And don't there are two Bandcamps now. There is one through Comatose Music, and then there is a personal Wormflesh Bandcamp. Buy from either one. Show our label that we are worth, they're worth investing in us. Buy from Steve, but if you want to put the money directly in our pocket, try to look for the Wormflesh Bandcamp specifically. If you want to stream us, we are on Spotify. It's a necessary evil these days. So yes, you can stream us, put us on Spotify. And you can get our merch through Indie Merch Store.
I will put all of your links on the bottom of the
Yeah,
video over here. So we'll do that after this is all said and done, however long this goes. And
right.
again, I like I said, I have like 15 hours of this drawing that I did that's going to be
Yeah,
sped up and time lapse. So you people will see parts like, wait a minute, it just jumped to this all of a sudden. Did he really draw that? I really drew everything. Yes, it's just I don't this
That's why
isn't
it's up
going
to
on
Sean
for
because consistency,
yeah.
we talked about it earlier. There's something about when you have a concept that has a consistent theme coming to the same person to keep the consistent color palette is kind of important. And I feel like you've done that. I mean, the album that they're all different enough, but there's this color tonality to the first album, to the EP, to the new album that's like that's you.
You
Like
know what? I'll even throw up the T-shirt, the ink drawing, just the old micron pen thing that I did, the body coming up out of the ground. First, like I use a lot of brown and red with your guys' stuff because that's kind of like the dirt with the
yeah.
blood, but also red isn't just blood. Red is also kind of a there's a lot of clay crimson color that goes on with like being buried, and formaldehyde is kind of yellowish, and I've seen
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
I would
I
know that.
um
You know that,
surprise
Sean.
surprisingly enough at the hospital there's a lot of blue involved with death too. Blue and like kind of
Yeah,
off yellow.
yeah.
I was actually shocked to find out how accurate some of the zombie makeup was in the Night of the Living Dead remake, the kind of yellowish.
The one where they're all stuck in the mall with Phil from the guy who
No, no, no,
plays.
no. That's the
That's
Dawn of the
all.
Dead remake, Dawn of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead, the remake that came out in '90, the color version.
Oh God, I haven't. Man, I have to watch.
Yeah, dude. It's
Okay, I'm the weirdest person. Like I've seen a lot of classic slashers, but
uh-huh.
like I am not like as up on ever like horror movies the way all my other buddies are. I'm like I'd prefer. Dude, I actually watched this strange movie like called it's a French movie. It's about these
So it's
aliens.
French, so it is strange.
Yeah, it was in the 70s. It was called something planets. Planet Sauvage is what it comes out to in French, but these big blue aliens and humans are called ohms and we're their pets and we're primitive. It was really trippy. I like watching weird stuff like that in comedies.
So what you're saying is Avatar's a remake.
Avatar is a remake. Actually, Avatar is just a rip off of Ferngully.
Uh, it's a mix between Ferngully, Halo, and oh, what else? There was one other thing I can't think right now, but it's
So that's there's actually a joke from Saturday Night Live where they're talking about the logo. It's just papyrus.
Papyrus. Yes, I
They have
saw
this,
that.
it actually goes back to art. Dude, here's this movie that hired all these amazing animators, created these insane worldscapes, and
Hmm.
as ridiculous as it was, he's right. They didn't have the budget to draw out a logo. They had to go to they had to go to papyrus
That's
font.
crazy. This is a good segue too for me to mention. We talked about this before, before the interview, that I did the artwork for you guys, but I want to be very clear. I did not do the logo. There's this misconception that like cover artists, comic book artists, painters, we can do everything. I am a character creature designer. I I I'm not a logo designer. You want to give a shout out to your logo maker?
Cindy Switzer actually did our logo. And she has I think her page was called Sinner Art because Cindy. So I think it was Cinner Art. But yeah, Cindy Switzer. So she she did our logo. I've done a couple iterations where I took the old original logo that was made by a buddy of mine back in the day from
Yeah.
a band called Xylem. And he's luckily sent me the PSD file where the logo and the blood splatter were separate. So I've been able to pull the blood splatter from the old logo and then slap the new one on it in my own Photoshop variants. So
That is one thing I will say for any bands listening. If you have a logo for your band and you're working with an artist, please, please, please have a lossless PNG without a background file with clean edges. And you know
I
how many times have I been given logos from bands and I have to go in there and manually cut around every little shard and spike and let them like, dude, just give me the logo without a background. So anyway,
so as some people may or may not know, I own a company called Arachnid Cabinets, and part of
yeah,
that
yeah, Arachnid.
and now part of that is I offer laser engraving services and I offer custom logos not only for people's cabs, But if they want to slap it on their Mesa Boogie, they want to rip the PV logo off their amplifier and put something sexy that represents them. I don't know how many countless times. Please send me a pure black and white JPEG or PNG, no gradients, no grayscaling, nothing. It needs to be pure. And then they send me something where there's like some fancy weird gradients. Like, dude, it's got to be pure black and white. I can't.
Yeah.
The CNC machine, I hate to say it's binary. It only sees black and white, and it sees one as negative space, it sees the other as positive space. And it helps me when I'm pulling it out in Photoshop because I sometimes your logos are so crazy. I have to put an outer glow on it and then rasterize the layer to make it one solid. So I
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
start painting in the negative space that, is in between maybe spires and parts of the logo. So yeah, if I try to do a magic wand on your gradient logo, it's gonna grab stuff, and sometimes the details you don't want lost. It's gonna doesn't know what to grab when I'm trying to get it out of a background.
And
So
please make sure your logos are at least at 300 DPI. I prefer
yes,
600, but at least make sure the dimensions are enough to where like if I blow it, like I don't want to have to blow it up and then you get like pixelation and like scaling
five,
and
10 meg. A good logo after it's been exported, it'll be like it should be somewhere around like anywhere from the 7 to 1,000 pixel,
yeah,
700 by a
yeah.
thousand pixels. That's typically good enough for album art, laser engraving, things like that. But man, if your logo is like 2 kilobits, and it's
This
50
this
by it's
this
50 by
tiny little thing that fits on an album.
yeah.
So I'm
So
gonna
yeah,
go ahead and
I know your pain, dude, trying to get people to send me stuff for laser engraving and logo.
yeah. So, or when bands and people they want to send me their logos like bigger, lossless, no background. Just think of it
Yeah,
like a stencil, a big ass stencil, just a huge stencil.
yeah,
So I will go ahead and put your Arachnid Cabs link also in the video
yeah.
so people can check out. Um, yeah. So anyway, everybody, make sure to check out Wurm Flesh and their newest album, Puppeteering Fetid Remains, when it comes out. When is the kind of targeted release date for that, if you want to say, or is it still up in the air?
It's still up in the air, but it'll definitely, we're hoping this year, if not early 2026. So,
Okay.
like I said, there's lots of cool things in the books with our travel. Yep, we're trying to do bigger things, uh, not to make the local scene feel bad, like we're forgetting them, but sometimes you gotta not play your local
You
scene.
you have to move,
Yeah,
don't forget your hometown, but
yeah.
unless you want to be like a punk band that sings about your hometown every single song, you got to move on. You got to you got to go out there. So,
Call the Forever on
um
the Y band.
yeah. Anyway, it was great talking to you, man. It's always good talking to you, doing stuff for you guys. I will put links to everything on the bottom and make sure people check out Wormflesh. They're great music to listen to, especially if you're on the way to work and you just you woke up and chose violence.
Right?
Don't,
You chose
don't,
violence, but you want it to be somewhat,
yeah, you
thought
check out.
out.
So yeah, go ahead and check out Wormflesh. Anyway, if you like what I do and want to support me, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.